Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unfiltered Flow ELSC. I'm Megan Cook. That's Alan Burdett. And today is our pleasure to welcome Mr. Mike McVay, President of Cross Companies Mobile Integration Group. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Mike, my favorite question, how did you get started in the fluid power industry?
How did I get started? So I got a mechanical engineering degree from the University of Alabama and went to work for a foundry down in that area near Tuscaloosa. And we did a plant expansion project where we added a lot of equipment and a lot of new hydraulics. And I was picked as the person who was going to be responsible for gaining an understanding of those systems, developing maintenance plans for the systems. And so this is a fairly long story. So I went to night school at a local technical college to understand fluid power. And during that tech school run, that was about a year-long thing. I met a lot of fluid power salespeople who then started calling on me at the plant where I worked. And I just really didn't enjoy the day-to-day engineering grind, but I wanted to use my technical skills. And just as I got closer to these folks, I started realizing that I thought I would like to branch out and go into sales, and started looking for a position in sales. And that's how I wound up at Cross Company. Cross Company was the first company I interviewed with, and last week was my 30th anniversary.
That's great.
Impressive.
That doesn't
It's a great
happen
place to
too
be.
often. That doesn't
No, it
happen too
doesn't.
often nowadays. Wow. Okay, 30 years in the industry. So you've worked on quite a few projects, I'm sure. You sort of worked your way up through the sales organization. What would you say is one of the most memorable projects you've worked on? Whether you made the most money there, was the most challenging, or the most fun, or whatever. What would you say one of the most memorable ones is?
That's a really hard question to answer. I can tell you, and I'm going to answer it, but maybe a little differently than you asked it. So when I started working for Cross, I was very heavily industrial focused. So steel mills and paper mills and that sort of thing is where I spent my time, industrial hydraulics, power units. And without going into the specifics, our model started shifting, and we got into the mobile OEM space, and I started calling on mobile OEM customers exclusively. I was the sales guy for Alabama and Mississippi for a few years while we were trying to grow that business unit. Just mobile systems just really grabbed me. It's what I just turned out to be good at. It was really fun because, on the industrial side, it was largely MRO stuff, and being in front of these mobile customers gave me a chance to exercise the sales muscle, but also exercise the engineering muscle a little bit. So, solving problems for customers, going home and doing a schematic and a bill of materials because I had a cool idea, and presenting those schematics to, customers and getting and winning that business. It's not one specific machine. But it is kind of fun to be driving down the road and see machines that, hey, I did the initial hydraulic system on that machine, along, of course, with the customer. That's fun. Now my family gets sick of hearing it, hey, you see that machine? But that's the fun part to me, is marrying the applications skill set with the sales skill set and making customers happy. That's what I love.
Well, Mike, this is knowing Cross and how stout your engineering department is there. Smart technology and advancements there and in fluid power systems. What have you seen in the 30 years to now? And then what do you think the future holds with regards to that?
Being a 30-year guy, especially in the distribution, calling on smaller and mid-size OEMs, we saw a pretty slow adoption rate when CAN bus systems started being introduced to the market, piston pumps and pressure comp valves and those sorts of things. Our customer base was a little slower to adopt that kind of thing. I mean, that's normal technology now, but when I started, it was gear pumps and open center valves, and we really don't want to, extra expense or don't see the value. So there was quite a few years of helping customers get up to speed on that stuff. That's now just, pressure pump valves, gear pumps, CAN bus systems are really pretty much present on most machines that we work with. The shift we're seeing now, you mentioned IoT. I think where we see the most benefit when it comes to IoT is we have gateways on just about every machine that we do a system for. And we love the ability to be able to reach out to those machines and do remote troubleshooting. That has saved us quite a bit of time and money and our customers too, when it comes to just engineering services and being able to quickly reach out to a machine and see what might be causing a malfunction. And frankly, also ability to do remote software updates. You find that, oh, we need to update code. You've got 30 or 40 machines all over the country. That used to be a horrible thing if you discovered that. And now that's a matter of, doing some coordination with the customer and doing that remotely. So that's been our biggest use of IoT. Gosh, the other biggie right now, we're seeing a lot of investigation in the electrification space. So we, about 3 years ago, started up an e-mobility group. We've got 3 team members in that group, and currently we have 4 machines in our shop that we are doing prototype electrification systems on. So, kind of at the beginning of that, our customers are trying to figure that out. We do believe that there is going to be a place for that, and in the next few years, we definitely see that we'll be in production on at least a couple of machines. And it's not going to displace fluid power, but it's very complementary to what we're already doing. And if we couldn't do that, then we couldn't get our hands on these other opportunities that are on the machine. So it's a complementary technology that we're investing in pretty heavily so that we can offer the full suite of integration services to our OEM customers.
So looking into your crystal ball and looking 5 to 10 years ahead, Mike, where do you think people should concentrate their efforts as far as skills and new areas of knowledge as they're coming into the industry or wanting to further themselves in the industry? What do you think they should concentrate on as far as areas of knowledge?
Well, I think I grew up in sales, right? So I can give you the answer for our sales team. I think it's really important, if you want to have a strong career, that you should make sure that you're technically competent, particularly in fluid power, but also understanding how those other technologies might, be applicable so that you can reach into your engineering department and get the help you need. Investing time in really making sure that you understand the products you sell, how they're applied, understanding the customer's machinery, understanding how it operates and what might make it better. That's a long process. For me, my boss hates to hear me say this, but for me, it took probably 5 years to go from green salesperson to truly bringing real value to the customer. It's a long investment period in yourself, right? Spending the time in the evenings, making sure that you know the technologies. And again, you're not going to know every detail, but you certainly need to have a high level overview of what you're representing can help your customers. And what I would say in our engineering team, and to some degree our sales team, because all of our salespeople are applications people, as we see machinery shift to electrification, you are definitely going to need to understand how to design more efficient hydraulic systems. It's kind of cliche right now. We hear it a lot in other podcasts, but it's true. And we're seeing it firsthand right now. The first conversation that we have to have with our customers who are interested in electrifying is, hey, we're not just going to take the engine out of there and put an electric motor in there and run the same system efficiently. Now, if you just want a beta test just to make sure, see how it operates, that's fine. But you got to identify where the inefficiencies are in the circuit and fix those, or you're not going to be able to maximize battery life, or you're going to have to put a bunch of extra batteries on there. So efficient hydraulic design is going to be a really important thing over the next few years.
That's what I was going to say, Mike, when you were talking about the electrification portion. It's
It is.
definitely different, and approaching customers and understanding the system. There's some training that needs to happen there on the
Yeah,
sales.
we spend a lot of time. So when we bring our sales team in, we also generally bring our engineering team in. And when we have a sales meeting, we try to couple that with an engineering meeting so that there can be a lot of interaction there, and we'll have engineers do presentations. But what I like to say, our engineering department is an extension of our sales force. I would say that any high level system that we've won over the past 5 years, it initiated with a salesperson understanding where our value proposition was and being able to communicate that, and then quickly going back with an engineer so that you could have a more deeply technical conversation. Because these days, with all the technologies you're representing, most salespeople, and I would include myself in that, you need that engineer with you to answer the detailed technical questions about, code development and how does your CAN bus system interact with the battery management system and what's going to change here. So, we very heavily leverage engineers in our selling process.
So, what do you see now as the biggest challenge in the fluid power industry?
Well, we alluded to it before the interview started. I've been across 30 years. Hopefully I'll be here quite a while longer, but most of the people who work for me or in my team, especially the salespeople, have been here even longer than me. So we're beginning to see those people make retirement decisions, and we're going to turn quite a few people over the next 4 to 5 years. And recruiting has become increasingly difficult. So I think recruiting the right people, doing a really good job of onboarding those people, making sure that your comp package is fair and market appropriate. And then, this is a cross company plug, but it's true. And it's one of the reasons why we have so many tenured people here, making sure that when the people are here, they feel valued and are treated well. And culture is a big part of every conversation that we have. In every meeting, we start our meeting with a cultural cornerstone. We use it as a recruiting tool. And we've got several people who work for us because they knew us from a previous life, and they saw the difference of how our employees interact with one another, with them, the type of company we are. So really doubling down on making sure that we do not lose that culture is critical to retaining them once we find them. And it's
Yeah.
an important recruitment tool.
You hit the nail on the head there. Onboarding is such a big deal, and I don't think companies realize what a big deal the onboarding process is to retain employees and the culture piece. More and more, my talking to candidates, I would say a strong majority make a move because of current company culture and uncertainty in the situation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great that that's the route you take in keeping your employees, and you do have a lot of long tenured employees.
No, gosh, yeah. We had an account manager recently give us a retirement date, and it will put this individual right at 40 years with cross company.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
So it's a
impressive.
very rare thing these days.
Yeah. The other point you made that I don't think people give enough credence to is it does take probably 5 years to become proficient when you're in the sales side with the product you sell. I know that was true for me. I really didn't feel totally comfortable until about 5 years in. It's
Right.
just a long process, especially when you have a technical product.
That's right. And, you're calling on engineers. And so that's very key. Engineers don't have very much time for somebody who doesn't understand what they're selling and how it's applied and how it can make that engineer's life better, via making their
And
machine
some of
better.
them won't hesitate to tell you that.
Pretty direct at times. But yeah, that's a very important key piece. And, we see that. And as I said, it is our biggest challenge. We understand that we need to start making those hires now for those 3 year down the road people. And we're working on a plan for that.
Here's a fun one for you, Mike. Go back 30 years ago. What would you tell Mike?
Well, oh, I tell Mike a lot of things. I would say back to referencing that long development period before you really become a good salesperson, I would tell me, it's going to be all right. Be patient with yourself. Because I had a few tough conversations with myself about, a couple years in, just, you have to learn how to handle rejection. You have to learn how to handle the fact that, you know, customers aren't going to buy everything from you. You don't always have the best solution, and and it took me a little bit of time. And this is probably just because of my personality type, to learn how to accept those rejections, or how to understand that a loss of a particular order did not mean the sky was falling. That's what I would have wished that I had been better at early in my career. It took quite a while for me to get my arms around some of the emotional aspects of making that transition from being an engineer to being a salesperson, because it is a very different life. So yeah, it's going to be all right, Mike.
Hey, I tell myself that every day, Mike, still, every day.
What's really fun is, because again, many of the salespeople who are here, knew that were here when I started, at least three. And I was having a funny conversation with one of them last week. Yeah, we used to room together at sales meeting. We used to have to do that back in the day to save money. We doubled up in hotel rooms, and he was like, "Man, like I can't believe how much you've changed." He's like, "That young guy that used to room with me, I wasn't too sure about him." I was like, "I wasn't too sure about me either."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun to have that history with people.
Hey, Mike, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for giving me a chance to talk to you. I hope you guys have a great day.
Too, Mike. Thank